Professor Han checked his uniform for the fifth time as the transport ship prepared to dock. Through the viewing window, he could see the Galactic Academy of Sciences for the first time. It was massive, a gleaming structure of curved metal and glass that floated in space, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity in its outer rings. Small ships moved around it like bees around a hive. "First time off Earth?" asked the blue-skinned Merlian sitting beside him. Han nodded. "Is it that obvious?" "You haven't stopped staring since we entered visual range," the alien said with a sound like bubbling water, their version of laughter. "Don't worry, everyone remembers their first view of the Academy." The ship shuddered as docking clamps engaged. A pleasant chime sounded, and the captain's voice came over the speakers. "We have arrived at the Galactic Academy of Sciences, human. Passengers are reminded that gravity in the main sections is set to Confederation standard, 0.8 of Earth normal. Please adjust accordingly." Han stood up, feeling the strange lightness in his limbs. Earth had joined the Galactic Confederation just 18 months ago, and he was among the first human scientists selected to work at the Academy. 6 years of applications, interviews, and security clearances had led to this moment. He grabbed his bag and followed the other passengers toward the exit. Most were clearly not human. Some had too many limbs, others had skin colors impossible for Earth life, and a few didn't seem to have heads in the conventional sense. The entry hall of the Academy was enormous, with a ceiling that rose at least 30 meters high. Species of all shapes and sizes moved with purpose across the polished floor. Han felt small, not just in stature, but in significance. Earth was the newest member of the Confederation, still finding its place. "Professor Han," a voice called out, in Korean. Han turned to see another human waving at him. The man was shorter than Han, with a friendly face and a Confederation science uniform with 2 silver bars on the collar. "I'm Dr. Taiho," the man said as he approached. "I've been assigned as your liaison, 3 years at the Academy so far." He switched to English, then to what Han recognized as standard Confederation language before returning to Korean. "Sorry, Habit. We use translator implants for most communications, but it's nice to speak our own language sometimes." "It's good to meet you," Han said, relieved to see another Korean. "This place is overwhelming at first," Taeho finished for him. "You'll get used to it. Come on, I'll show you to your quarters and then we can talk about your assignment." As they walked through the Academy's corridors, Han noticed how other species reacted to them. Some showed obvious curiosity. A few seemed indifferent, but he caught several exchanging what he assumed were whispers after they passed. "They're still getting used to seeing humans," Taeho explained. "We're something of a novelty." "Because we're new to the Confederation?" Taeho's expression tightened slightly. "Partly that, also because of, well, certain perceptions." Before Han could ask what he meant, a towering insectoid creature stepped into their path. It stood over 2 meters tall, with a sleek exoskeleton that shimmered with iridescent blues and greens. 4 arms were folded across its thorax, and its compound eyes seemed to examine Han from multiple angles at once. "Dr. Taiho," the creature said, its mandibles clicking slightly as the translation came through Han's newly installed earpiece. "This must be Professor Han." "Director Mok," Taiho said with a respectful bow that Han quickly copied. "Yes, this is Professor Han from Seoul National University, Earth." The director's antennae twitched. "Welcome to the Academy, Professor. I trust your journey was comfortable? Earth is quite distant from the established transit routes." "The journey was fine, thank you," Han replied. "Good. Your species' gravitational adjustment seems adequate." The director's head tilted. "I have reviewed your work on particle physics. Quite elementary, but showing potential. We look forward to your demonstration next week." Han felt a flush of embarrassment at the dismissive tone. "Thank you for the opportunity, Director." The insectoid nodded. "Dr. Taiho will brief you on the protocols." We've allocated Laboratory 7 for your presentation on Earth's gravitational theories. With that, Director Mock continued down the corridor, two smaller insectoids hurrying behind. Once the director was out of earshot, Han turned to Taiho. "Did I miss something?" Taiho sighed. "That's Director Mock of the Vespid Collective. Brilliant scientist, less brilliant with people skills. Don't take the elementary comment personally. The Vespids have been working with gravitic technology for 3,000 years. They resumed walking, now taking a lift tube that moved them horizontally through the station. Han noticed they were passing laboratories where scientists of various species worked with equipment he could barely comprehend. "Here's your quarters," Taiho said eventually, stopping at a door that slid open at their approach. "Standard human-compatible environment. The bathroom adapts to different species' needs, so just tell it what you want." The room was small but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and what appeared to be a food synthesizer. A large window looked out into space, showing a breathtaking view of distant stars and the curve of a gas giant planet nearby. "It's perfect," Han said, setting down his bag. Taiho sat in the room's only chair. "Now, about your assignment. You're here to demonstrate Earth's understanding of gravitational physics. It's mostly ceremonial. A welcome gesture for new species." "Ceremonial?" Han frowned. "I was told this was a serious scientific exchange." "Everything at the Academy is a serious scientific exchange," Taiho said carefully. "But it's also political. Humans are on probationary membership status. This demonstration is part of establishing our scientific credibility." Han sat on the edge of the bed. "I see. And what exactly are these perceptions you mentioned earlier?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "Most species view humans as physically inferior. We come from what they consider a high-gravity world, which they think makes us slow, dense, and fragile. There's also our atmospheric requirements, our limited sensory abilities. They think we're weak," Han said flatly. "Scientifically interesting, but evolutionarily disadvantaged," Taiho corrected diplomatically. "I overheard some Draken scientists call us the fragile species last month." Han's pride stung. "Our physics is solid. The theories I'm presenting are excellent," Taiho interrupted. "But that might not matter. Just do your presentation, avoid controversy, and help Earth maintain its standing." As Taiho stood to leave, Han called after him. "You said Laboratory 7? "Yes. It's one of the smaller labs, but it has all the equipment you requested." Taiho paused at the door. "Rest today. Tomorrow I'll show you around and introduce you to the lab. The demonstration is in 5 days." After Taiho left, Han stared out at the stars. Earth seemed impossibly far away. He had come here proud to represent human science, only to discover they were viewed as curiosities rather than colleagues. He opened his tablet and reviewed his presentation materials. If the Confederation thought humans were weak and their science primitive, he would just have to prove them wrong. In the lounge area near his quarters, 2 reptilian aliens watched him through the transparent wall. One made a gesture that might have been amusement. "Another human scientist," one said to the other. "This one looks even frailer than the last." "They try so hard," the other replied. "Almost adorable, isn't it?" Han couldn't hear them, but he could feel their eyes on him. He straightened his back and continued working, unaware that in 5 days, everything would change. 3 days passed quickly as Han learned his way around the Academy. The massive station was home to over 10,000 scientists from nearly 200 species. Han spent most of his time in Laboratory 7, preparing for his demonstration. On the morning of the 4th day, Han was calibrating a gravity simulator when Taiho burst into the lab. His normally neat hair was messy, and he was breathing hard. "We have a problem," Taiho said. "A big one." Han set down his tools. "What happened?" "The Krell are coming. Today." Their ships just entered the system. The Krell? Han had reviewed information about major Confederation species, but there were so many. Remind me who they are. Taeho pulled up an image on his tablet. It showed a tall, muscular reptilian being with dark green scales and amber eyes. The Krell are one of the oldest members of the Confederation. They're warriors and scientists, physically powerful and politically influential. Why is their visit a problem? Because Director Mach is reassigning all the main laboratories for their use, Taeho explained, including the demonstration hall we were supposed to move to tomorrow. Our presentation has been pushed back to its original schedule 2 days from now, but we're stuck using this small lab instead. Han looked around Laboratory 7. It was adequate for preparation, but not designed for presentations. Can we request a different space? I tried. Every suitable lab is being given to the Krell delegation. Director Mach says we should be honored that our demonstration wasn't canceled altogether. Han frowned. So we make the best of it. We can rework the presentation to fit this space. There's more, Taeho said, lowering his voice though they were alone. I heard the Krell requested information about all ongoing research. They specifically asked about human scientists. Us? Why would they care about us? I don't know, but it can't be good. The Krell are careful about who they let into the Confederation. They have veto power over new memberships. Han felt a weight in his stomach. If Earth's probationary status was at stake, his demonstration had just become much more important. When do they arrive? He asked. Their main ship docks in 3 hours. Ambassador Sol and 12 of their scientists will tour the Academy tomorrow. Director Mach is hosting a welcome dinner tonight. Han nodded. Then we need to work faster. I'll reconfigure the demonstration while you adjust the presentation materials. They worked through the day, adapting their plans to the smaller space. The lab's equipment was older than what they had expected to use, but Han found that it was surprisingly robust. While testing the gravity simulator, Han noticed something odd. The readouts showed fluctuations that shouldn't have been possible. With standard equipment, he opened the maintenance panel and studied the internal components. Taeho, he called. Come look at this. Taeho joined him at the panel. What did you find? This simulator is custom modified. See these power couplings? They're rated for much higher output than standard models. Taeho frowned. That doesn't make sense. Laboratory 7 is one of the oldest in this section. Han pointed to markings on an inner component. These are Vespid symbols, right? Can you read them? Taeho leaned closer. It says prototype, and there's a warning about exceeding safety protocols. He looked at Han with concern. This must be an early experimental model they never replaced. Han stared at the machine, an idea forming. What if we adjust our demonstration to use this to our advantage? Instead of just explaining Earth's gravitational theories, we could show practical applications with a much more impressive gravity field. That sounds dangerous, Taeho said. We don't know the limits of this equipment. I'll run diagnostics and set safe parameters, Han assured him. Think about it. This could make our presentation stand out. Show that humans have practical knowledge, not just theories. Taeho hesitated. The demonstration is supposed to be basic. Just show what we know, not try to impress anyone. But that's exactly the problem, Han argued. They're expecting us to be basic, to confirm their belief that humans are behind everyone else. This is our chance to change that perception. Before Taeho could respond, the lab door slid open. Director Mach entered, accompanied by 2 other Vespids and a tall, imposing reptilian figure that could only be a Krell. Han and Taeho quickly stood at attention. Professor Han, Dr. Taeho, Director Mach said, mandibles clicking. This is Ambassador Sol of the Krell Dominion. The ambassador expressed interest in observing human scientific work. The Krell was nearly 2.5 meters tall, with powerful muscles visible beneath scaled skin that shimmered with a metallic quality in the lab's lights. Ambassador Sol's eyes were large and yellow with vertical pupils that focused intently on the humans. "It is an honor to meet representatives of Earth," the ambassador said, voice deep and rumbling even through the translator. "Your species is new to us." Han bowed respectfully. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. We are preparing a demonstration of Earth's gravitational physics." The Krell's scaled brow ridges raised slightly. "Gravitational physics? Interesting. My species has a particular interest in this field due to our homeworld's unusual properties." Director Mock seemed surprised by the ambassador's interest. "The human presentation is scheduled for 2 days from now. If you would like to attend—" "I would," Ambassador Sol interrupted. "My entire scientific team will attend. We are curious about how a species from a high-gravity world approaches such problems." The director's antennae twitched in what Han had learned was a sign of agitation. "Of course, Ambassador. I will ensure proper arrangements are made." After they left, Tai-Ho slumped against a workbench. "This is a disaster. Now the Krell will be watching our demonstration, along with Director Mock and probably half the Academy's senior scientists." "It's an opportunity," Han said, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. "If we impress them, and if we fail, we damage." "Earth standing in the Confederation," Tai-Ho finished. Han returned to the gravity simulator, examining the modified components with new purpose. "We won't fail. Help me run diagnostics on this system." "You're still planning to use it?" Now more than ever. Han's face was determined. "If the Krell are interested in gravity science, let's show them what humans can do." They worked late into the night, testing the modified simulator. Han discovered it could generate a gravity field nearly 10 times stronger than standard models, far more powerful than they had originally planned for. He carefully calibrated the system to create a field 3 times Earth normal, which seemed impressive but safe. As they finished, Tai-Ho looked worried. "Are you sure about this?" "We're deviating from the approved demonstration." Han nodded. "Sometimes you have to take risks to change people's minds. Tomorrow, we'll show them that human science deserves respect." Neither of them noticed the small warning light that occasionally flickered on the simulator's control panel, a sign of instability in the power regulation system that their diagnostics had missed. Outside the lab, Academy staff hurried to prepare for the Krell delegation's tour the next day. In the diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Sol reviewed files on human physiology, paying particular attention to muscle density and skeletal strength. The Krell had their own reasons for interest in Earth's newest Confederation members, reasons they had not shared with Director Mock or anyone else at the Academy. The stage was set for a demonstration that would reveal more than anyone expected. Han woke early on the day of the demonstration. He had slept poorly, his mind racing with last-minute adjustments to their presentation. He dressed in his formal Earth Science uniform, dark blue with silver trim, and headed to Laboratory 7 Tai-Ho. Was already there, checking the equipment for the 3rd time that morning. "How many people are coming?" Han asked. Tai-Ho looked up from his tablet. "Too many. Director Mock sent the final list. We have 12 Academy senior scientists, Ambassador Sul, and 8 Krell scientists, plus representatives from 5 other species who requested to observe. This lab is meant for 10 people at most," Han said, looking around the small space. "I know. They're bringing in extra chairs." Tai-Ho ran a hand through his hair nervously. "Han, are you sure about the gravity demonstration? We could still switch. Back to the standard presentation." Han shook his head. "This is our chance to show what humans can do. The modified simulator is working perfectly in all our tests. For the next 2 hours, they made final preparations. Academy staff brought in extra seating, arranging it in a semicircle around the demonstration area." The gravity simulator hummed quietly as Han ran one last diagnostic check. At precisely the scheduled time, the lab door slid open. Director Mock entered first. followed by a procession of alien scientists. The Krell delegation came last, with Ambassador Saul towering over everyone else. The lab quickly became crowded, with some of the smaller species standing at the back. Han noticed how different species positioned themselves based on their preferred gravity conditions. The bird-like Avari stayed near the door where gravity was weakest. The heavy-set Delurians chose seats closest to the floor. The Krell remained standing, their powerful bodies seemingly comfortable anywhere. Director Mock stepped forward, antennae twitching. Distinguished colleagues, we are gathered for a demonstration of gravitational physics from our newest Confederation members, the humans of Earth. Professor Han will present their current understanding of the field. The director's tone suggested this was a formality rather than a serious scientific event. Han felt a flash of irritation, but kept his face neutral as he took his position. "Thank you, Director Mock," Han said. "My colleague Dr. Taiho and I appreciate this opportunity." Han began with an overview of Earth's gravitational theories, explaining how humans had progressed from Newton to Einstein to modern quantum gravity concepts. He kept his language simple and clear, aware that most of the audience was listening through translators. The alien scientists watched with varying degrees of interest. Some nodded at familiar concepts, while others whispered to their neighbors. Han couldn't tell if they were impressed or merely being polite. Ambassador Sol's yellow eyes never left Han, his reptilian face unreadable. After 20 minutes of theoretical explanation, Han moved to the practical portion. "Now I will demonstrate how humans apply these theories with a gravity field generator." Taiho stood at the control panel, giving Han a questioning look. This was their last chance to stick to the safe, approved demonstration. Han gave a small nod, confirming they would proceed with the modified plan. "This generator can create an adjustable gravity field," Han explained. "For today's demonstration, we will create a field 3 times stronger than Earth normal. What humans would consider very heavy, but manageable." Several alien scientists shifted uncomfortably. For many species, 3 times their homeworld gravity would be crushing. Han had chosen this level carefully. Impressive, but not so extreme as to seem boastful. "The field will be contained to this marked area," Han continued, pointing to a square space in the center of the lab. "I will enter the field and conduct a simple experiment showing how objects of different masses behave." Han positioned several test objects, metal spheres of varying sizes, on a small table in the demonstration area. Then he nodded to Taiho to activate the generator. Taiho pressed the sequence of controls they had practiced. The gravity generator hummed louder as power flowed through its modified systems. A soft blue light outlined the demonstration area as the field formed. Han stepped into the field, immediately feeling the increased weight of his body. At 3 times Earth gravity, his 70 kilograms effectively became 210. It was uncomfortable but entirely bearable, like carrying a heavy backpack. He began lifting and dropping the metal spheres, demonstrating their accelerated fall in the enhanced gravity field. As you can see, the objects fall at the same rate regardless of mass, confirming the equality of gravitational and inertial mass. Han was so focused on his demonstration that he didn't notice the small red light flashing on the control panel. The first warning came from Taiho's shocked gasp. "Han!" Taiho said urgently. "The field strength is increasing on its own!" Han looked up at the display. The gravity field was supposed to be at 3G, but the numbers were climbing rapidly. 4G, 5G, 6G. The alien audience had noticed too. Several scientists were standing now, moving back from the demonstration area. Director Mock rushed to Taiho's side, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Shut it down," the director ordered. "The human is in danger." Taiho tried emergency shutdown procedures, but the system wasn't responding. The generator had entered a feedback loop, drawing more power than intended. The numbers continued to rise. 7G, 8G. The room erupted in alarmed voices. Several species could survive in their homeworld gravity plus 1 or 2 Gs, but 8G would crush most Confederation beings. Even the strongest Krell had never been tested beyond 6G. Han felt the increasing pressure as the gravity intensified around him. His legs strained with effort, and breathing became difficult as his chest muscles worked against the weight of his own ribs. He knew he should try to exit the field, but moving had become extremely difficult. At 8G, Han was effectively carrying over 560 kilograms, the weight of a small car. He managed to remain standing, though bent forward slightly. With enormous effort, he reached for one of the test spheres. The lab had fallen completely silent. Every alien was staring at him with what he recognized, even on their diverse faces, as shocked disbelief. They were waiting for him to collapse, possibly die. Instead, Han lifted the sphere, slowly and with visible strain, but he lifted it. "The principle still applies," he managed to say through gritted teeth. Director Mock turned to a Vespid technician. "Override the system. Cut power to this entire section if necessary." Ambassador Saul raised a scaled hand. "Wait," the Krell said, eyes fixed on Han. "Let us observe." Han took a labored step, then another. Every movement was a battle against the crushing force, but he remained functional. Sweat poured down his face as he carefully set the sphere back on the table. "Human!" Ambassador Saul called out. "Do you understand the gravity field is now at 8 times Earth standard?" Han nodded, unable to waste breath on words. "And you can still move?" The Krell's voice held something new, respect tinged with concern. "Yes," Han gasped. "Difficult, but possible." That was when the emergency override finally engaged. The blue field flickered and disappeared. Han stumbled forward as normal gravity returned, his body suddenly feeling weightless by comparison. Taiho rushed to his side, helping him to a chair. "Are you all right? That was almost 3 times what we planned." Han nodded, gulping air into his lungs. "I'm okay. Just need a minute." He looked up to see the entire audience staring at him. The smaller species had expressions he couldn't read, but the Krell were visibly agitated, conferring among themselves in rapid, harsh syllables. Their translators weren't conveying. Director Mock approached slowly, compound eyes fixed on Han. "Professor, I believe we need to discuss what just happened." Behind the director, Ambassador Saul was watching Han with new intensity. The Krell's yellow eyes narrowed in calculation, as if seeing the human for the first time. The demonstration was over, but Han sensed that something much bigger had just begun. The Academy's medical center was quiet, except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Han sat on an examination table while a Merlian doctor passed scanning devices over his body. Taiho stood nearby, still looking worried despite Han's repeated assurances that he felt fine. Director Mock waited with Ambassador Saul at the far end of the room, their conversation too quiet for Han to hear. Other Academy officials hurried in and out, speaking in urgent tones. "Remarkable," the Merlian doctor said, checking the scan results. "No broken bones, no torn muscles, no internal bleeding, just some minor strain and elevated heart rate." "So, I can go?" Han asked hopefully. The doctor's blue skin rippled in what might have been surprise. "After experiencing 8G? No, we need to observe you for at least 6 hours. Taiho leaned closer to Han. "They're shocked you're conscious, let alone asking to leave." Before Han could respond, Director Mock and Ambassador Saul approached. The director's normally fluid movements seemed stiff, and the Krell's yellow eyes remained fixed on Han with unsettling intensity. "Professor Han," Director Mock began, "the Academy Council has convened an emergency meeting. Your presence is requested once the medical team clears you." Han nodded. "Of course, but I don't understand the concern." The equipment malfunction was unfortunate, but... "This is not about equipment," Ambassador Sol interrupted. The Krell's deep voice was controlled, but Han sensed underlying excitement. "This is about what you revealed." "What I revealed?" "Ambassador." Sol turned to the doctor. "Explain to the human what 8G means to most Confederation species." The Merlian doctor set down his scanner. "My species evolved on a world with 0.7 Earth gravity. At 8G, our bones would shatter instantly. Even the Vespids with their exoskeletons cannot function above 4G. "And the Krell?" Han asked, looking up at Ambassador Sol. "We are considered the physically strongest major species in the Confederation," the Krell said with a hint of pride. "Our homeworld has 2.3 times Earth gravity. Our warriors train to function at up to 5G for short periods. None have demonstrated capability at 8G. Han finally understood. "So when I remained standing, you demonstrated physical capability beyond any known Confederation species," Director Mock finished, antennae quivering. "The Council needs to discuss the implications." 2 hours later, after further medical tests confirmed Han was indeed unharmed, he and Taiho were escorted to the Academy Council chamber. The circular room had a domed ceiling displaying a star map of Confederation space. Earth's star was a tiny point at the very edge. The chamber contained representatives from 12 major species, seated according to their physiological needs. The Avari perched on high stools, the Delurians reclined on cushioned platforms, and the Vespids stood at specially designed stations. Ambassador Sol and 3 other Krell stood on one side. Director Mock called the meeting to order. "We are gathered to discuss the implications of today's demonstration by Professor Han of Earth. The unexpected revelation of human physical capabilities requires immediate consideration." A tall, thin alien with pale skin and 4 arms spoke. "First, let us be direct. Humans have been classified as a minor physical species since first contact. Today suggests this classification is incorrect." "Incorrect?" An Avari fluttered its wing-like appendages. "It appears to be a deliberate deception. The humans presented themselves as a technological species with limited physical capabilities." Han started to object, but Taiho gripped his arm. In warning, Director Mock's compound eyes swiveled toward Han. "Professor, would you explain how a human can function at 8G when your official Confederation biological profile states that humans experience distress above 3G? Han looked confused. "That's not accurate. Humans do experience significant discomfort above 3G, but pilots and astronauts regularly train to withstand 8G or even 9G for short periods. This is standard information in our medical literature." The council chamber filled with murmurs and clicks of surprise. Ambassador Sol stepped forward. "Director, if I may explain," the Krell said. "When Earth applied for Confederation membership, they submitted their full biological data. This included the fact that they evolved on what most Confederation species would consider a high-gravity world. The ambassador activated a holographic display showing comparative physiological data. However, the evaluation committee classified this information under environmental adaptations rather than physical capabilities. There was no deception by humans. A Delurian counselor shifted his massive bulk. Then the error was ours. We assumed any species evolved in high gravity would be dense and slow-moving as a result. We never considered they might be both strong and agile. The evaluation committee's mistake is understandable," Ambassador Sol continued. "Until today, no one had seen a human function under extreme gravity conditions. The demonstration revealed what should have been obvious. A species evolved under constant high gravity would develop exceptional strength by Confederation standards." Han finally understood. "That's why Earth was placed on probationary status, isn't it? Not because you doubted our science or technology, but because the Confederation was concerned about your physical capabilities," Director Mock confirmed. "New species are evaluated for many factors, including the potential threat they might pose to existing members. Taiho looked stunned. You thought humans were dangerous? We had insufficient data, the director replied. Earth is isolated at the edge of explored space. Your planet's conditions are unusual. Your species developed advanced technology despite what we considered environmental challenges. Caution seemed appropriate. Ambassador Saul made a sound that might have been laughter. And now we know that caution was justified, though not in the way we expected. Humans are significantly stronger than most Confederation species. The four-armed alien spoke again. The question remains, how should we respond to this revelation? If humans can function at 8G, what are their actual physical limits? More importantly, added the Avari, what are their intentions? Physical. Power must be matched with appropriate restraint. Han felt the weight of alien eyes upon him. The Confederation had mistakenly classified humans as weak, and now they feared the opposite. Neither perception was completely accurate. If I may speak, Han said, stepping forward. What happened today was not a demonstration of some extraordinary human capability. On Earth, what I did would be considered impressive, but not impossible. We have athletes who could likely perform better than I did. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But humans don't measure ourselves by physical strength alone. Earth joined the Confederation to share knowledge and culture, not to demonstrate physical superiority. Ambassador Sol's eyes narrowed. Noble words, Professor Han. But they do not change the fact that we must reassess humanity's place in the Confederation. Director Mok's antennae twitched in what Han had learned was a gesture of decision. The Council will need time to consider this matter fully. For now, Professor Han and Dr. Taiho will return to their quarters while we deliberate. As they were escorted from the chamber, Taiho whispered to Han, "What do you think will happen now?" Han shook his head. "I don't know, but nothing will be the same." In the corridor outside, Academy staff members moved aside as they passed, watching, with new caution. Word of what had happened in Laboratory 7 had spread quickly. The humans were no longer viewed as curious newcomers, but as something potentially more significant. And in the council chamber, the debate about humanity's true nature and their future role in the Confederation was just beginning. 3 days passed before Han and Taiho received word from the council. During that time, they were confined to their quarters except for meals. Academy staff delivered food and necessities but offered no information about the council's deliberations. "This is ridiculous," Han said on the third morning, pacing the small room. "We didn't do anything wrong." Taiho sat calmly at the desk, reviewing data on his tablet. "No, but we changed everything. The Confederation needs time to adjust." Han stopped pacing. "What are you working on?" "Comparing Earth's gravity to other Confederation homeworlds," Taiho replied, turning the tablet so Han could see. "I created a chart showing where Earth fits. Look." The display showed a list of planets, ranked by surface gravity. Earth was near the top, exceeded only by a handful of worlds. Most Confederation species evolved on worlds with 0.6 to 0.8 Earth gravity, Taiho explained. Even the Krell homeworld at 2.3 G is unusual. No wonder they're surprised by our physical capabilities. Before Han could respond, their door chimed. Director Mok entered, followed by 2 Academy security officers and Ambassador Sol. "Professor Han, Dr. Taiho," the director said, antennae perfectly still in formal posture. "The Council has reached a decision. You will accompany us to the announcement chamber." They followed in silence through corridors that seemed emptier than usual. The few aliens they passed moved aside, watching the humans with new interest. The announcement chamber was smaller than the council chamber, but still impressive. A raised platform faced rows of seats, most already filled with scientists and officials from various species. Han noticed many more security officers than normal, positioned around the room. Director Mok led them to seats in the front row. Ambassador Sol took a position on the platform alongside representatives from other major species. An elder Vespid that Han hadn't seen before stepped to the center of the platform. As the room quieted, the Vespid spoke, voice translated in Han's earpiece. "I am High Director June of the Confederation Science Council. For those unfamiliar, I oversee all Confederation scientific institutions, including this academy," Han whispered to Taiho. "The head of the entire Confederation Science Division came for this?" "This must be bigger than we thought," Taiho whispered back. High Director June continued. 4 days ago, a routine demonstration revealed something unexpected about our newest Confederation members. Professor Han of Earth demonstrated physical capabilities that exceed those of any major Confederation species. Murmurs rippled through the audience. After extensive discussion and review of Earth's biological data, the Council has determined that humans possess natural physical strength, approximately 3 times greater than previously understood by Confederation standards. The High Director's compound eyes turned toward Han and Taiho. "This is not due to deception on humanity's part, but rather our failure to properly interpret their biological data in context with their homeworld conditions." Ambassador Sol stepped forward. "The Krell have confirmed this assessment. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world by Confederation standards. What they consider normal, most of us would find crushing. Their bodies reflect this evolutionary history." Han felt the attention of everyone in the room. It was uncomfortable to be discussed as if he were a specimen rather than a person. The High Director raised a limb for silence. The question before the Council was how to respond to this revelation. Some voiced concern that a physically powerful species might pose a threat to the Confederation's stability. Han tensed. Were they about to be expelled from the Confederation? However, the High Director continued, the Council has reviewed Earth's historical data and cultural development. While humans have a complex history that includes conflict, they have demonstrated remarkable progress toward peaceful cooperation among their own diverse populations. Ambassador Sol spoke again. "The Krell were once the primary military force in the Confederation, protecting physically weaker species. We recognize in humans a species with similar protective potential." The High Director's antennae dipped in, what Han recognized as a gesture of respect. "Therefore, Earth's probationary status is hereby lifted. Humans are granted full membership in the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities thereof." The announcement chamber erupted in sound, clicks, whistles, and various other vocalizations that the translators couldn't process. Han sat stunned, unable to believe what he was hearing. Taiho gripped his arm. "They're accepting us, not despite our strength, but because of it." When the noise subsided, Ambassador Sol approached the humans. "Professor Han, the Krell Dominion, wishes to establish a direct cultural and scientific exchange with Earth. We believe our species have much to learn from each other. I would be honored to help facilitate that," Han replied, still processing everything. Director Mach joined them. "Professor, your laboratory privileges have been expanded. You now have access to any facility in the Academy, including our advanced research sections." The 2 humans were soon surrounded by representatives from various species, all suddenly eager to establish connections with Earth. The same aliens who had dismissed them days earlier now treated them with new respect, some with caution, others with genuine interest. Later that evening, Han and Taiho sat in the Academy's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The space around their table remained empty, other species still keeping a respectful distance. "Everything has changed," Taiho said quietly, "and all because of a malfunctioning gravity generator." Han nodded. "I keep thinking about what the High Director said, that they misinterpreted our biological data. They saw our gravity and assumed we must be slow, dense creatures." "A natural mistake," Taiho replied. "They had no reference point for a species like ours. Han's tablet chimed with an incoming message. It was from Earth's government. Urgent communication requesting information about recent developments at the Academy. Word had already reached Earth that something significant had occurred. "Look at this," Han said, showing Taiho the message. "There are requests from 20 different Confederation species for diplomatic visitations to Earth. Trade negotiations, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation." Taiho smiled. From curiosities to valued allies in 4 days. Not bad. A server approached their table, a small insect-like being that moved cautiously. "Respected humans," it said through its translator, "Ambassador Sol requests your presence at a private dinner tomorrow. Will you attend?" Han nodded. "Please tell the ambassador we would be honored." After the server left, Han gazed out at the distant stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a heavy world that had shaped humans into something unexpectedly remarkable by Confederation standards. "It's ironic," he said. "All those years of space exploration, wondering if we'd find aliens, who were stronger, faster, more physically capable than us. And instead, we're the super-strong aliens," Taiho finished with a laugh. "The heavy worlders who can withstand crushing gravity." Han raised his drink in a toast. "To Earth, apparently a death world by Confederation standards and the home of the galaxy's newest superheroes." As they clinked glasses, Han couldn't help but wonder what other human traits might surprise the Confederation in the years to come. The gravity demonstration had been just the beginning of humanity's journey among the stars, a journey that would change not only how aliens viewed humans, but how humans viewed themselves. Across the lounge, a group of young alien scientists watched the two humans with wonder in their eyes. Tomorrow they would approach and ask questions. Tomorrow, a new chapter would begin. For tonight, Han was content to simply look at the stars and marvel at how an unplanned physics demonstration had revealed humanity's unexpected place in the cosmos.